Welcome to this series of DVD demonstrations of the use of hypnosis in a variety of clinical settings. The series are offered as an opportunity for you to view the work of one person, myself, and with the wish that as you observe the process that I'm engaged in, that there may be something about what you see that can be helpful to you, that you might like to explore further. There may be some things that you see that you become clear that you want to do less of. So the experiences are offered for you to see and have your own response to. I have a medical background. My name is McNeilly. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I was in suburban medical practice, family practice, for 10 years. Became interested in hypnosis, and it was a big change in the way that I thought about hypnosis and used hypnosis in my work when I saw a film of Milton Erickson working Herb Lustig's Artistry of Milton H. Erickson. Saw that in 1976 in Philadelphia. And I was so impressed with the way that Erickson was working with these two clients, Nick and Mondi, and the human, caring, down-to-earth kind of approach that he took. It appealed to me very much. And so I spent a couple of weeks visiting with Erickson in '77 and again in '78, and a week just before he died in 1980. I continued to be increasingly interested in Erickson's work and his legacy, not only in him as a person, although I appreciate him and appreciate being known by him, but more particularly where he was pointing to. And even though he's been dead for nearly 25 years, his legacy continues and continues to grow. So I've been inspired by him and by what he was doing in my experience with him. And this led me to incorporate that in my work and begin teaching it in Melbourne and other places around Australia and other countries. And more recently, I've transformed the teaching approach to include distance education for those who have want to have more flexibility in their studying time and form of being able to view, listen, read, apply, reflect in their own time. One of the aspects of what you'll see in these demonstrations is an emphasis on what someone likes. And I became interested in this from a couple of sources. One, I noticed that Erickson would often ask people about their hobbies. And I wondered whether this was just polite or what it was about. But when I read in Bill O'Hanlon and Michelle Warner Davis's book In Search of Solutions, how they advocate beginning a session just by talking about anything but the problem, it became increasingly interesting to me, and I found when I did that useful to the therapeutic process in a number of ways. Firstly, it helps to set a mood of equality, a mood of working together with someone rather than someone with some kind of problem coming along and working with some so-called expert. Also, I noticed that when people talk about their likes, the things they like doing, what they enjoy doing, the things that are pleasing to them, that whenever anyone talks about their likes or their pleasurable activities, there's always an abundance of resources. So talking about likes brings a mood of resourcefulness and helps to connect the client with their larger experience of their life, not just the small, however pressing, aspect of their life that they are experiencing, that they're calling the problem. The other thing that I've been impressed with in asking about what people like and what they enjoy doing is that it provides a very individual and very contactful source for for me and for other therapists using this to have access to an early learning set that's going to be applicable to metaphors that are going to fit. So that if someone likes riding their bicycle, it can be very safe and very fitting to include an early learning set in the hypnotic experience about when you first learned to ride a bicycle. Whereas if someone likes to swim, talking about riding a bicycle may or may not be so meaningful to them, so connecting for them. So I draw your attention to that in these demonstrations, that I always like to begin with what do you like to do, and invite you to notice the mood that creates, and that so often within that conversation the whole shape and texture of the session that follows begins to take on a form that you could then observe. The other aspect of these demonstrations that I'd like to speak about beforehand is the notion of learning. Erickson said all our life we're learning. And when we said goodbye to him in that week in 1980, just 10 days before he died, he was still very lively and very much interested in learning how to interact with the people that were there, even at that late stage of his life. So he demonstrated and modelled the value that he put on learning, and it was very apparent to see how, however ailing he was, that his interest in learning provided a lot of liveliness for the man, and so, by example, for us. Also, I've noticed that one of the major benefits that hypnosis can provide, pretty predictably, is that hypnosis is wonderful at generating an experience. When people talk about comfort as an idea, it is very different when in a hypnotic experience they actually experience comfort. It becomes something that, having experienced it, they have a richer connection with, and so are able to embody it and employ it, take it into their life without having to conceptualize it. So learning is a theme that runs through my work that I saw was very central to Erickson's work, and I find it very relevant to think that, as he did, that problems are learnt limitations, and that solutions are opportunities to learn, to think differently, feel differently, behave differently, interact differently, be differently. And so I want to be sure that people who have been so generous in allowing their individual sessions with me to be made available, and to make sure that my gratitude is expressed to them. It's very generous of them to allow their experience to be shared by strangers. It's no small gift, and I do appreciate it. And so I welcome you to this experience and invite you to observe what you do and to see what you can learn, what can be of benefit or value or of additional texture in your work and your learning. And it's a pleasure to be able to share this with you.